The question we want to answer today is, could you explain the following basic IP routing table? So you might know that a computer talks to another computer using a router like this. Here's an IP address, and when you send a packet headed for this IP address down here, 10.0.0.5, what happens is that packet goes into the router through this interface, FA0 divided by 0. It goes in that interface and out this other interface, because on the router there's a routing table that knows where to send the packet, and it gets to where it's supposed to be. And that's what networking is, packets going back and forth and back and forth. What we want to be able to do is look at a table like this and break it apart, kind of explain what we're looking at over here. And I'm glad Stack Overflow sometimes keeps these questions even if they close them, because this whole Q&A I actually learned quite a bit from. So here we go. Our first question is, when you see destination in the first column, what destination is this referring to? Okay, so here's our first column. I see 1080.0.0. A better way to read this would be with the subnet mask in mind. So it's not saying this is a destination IP, it's a destination network ID. We know from subnetting that 255.255.255 means that the network ID right here is 1080.0. So for that network, anytime a packet comes in and its ultimate destination is in this network, we know to send it out towards this IP. This is the gateway. So I kind of put that in different words than I originally had it. To answer this first question specifically, I say something like the destination in a routing table is the IP range where a particular packet will be sent to when its goal is that IP range. So in parentheses, if the packet's heading towards that, so in parentheses, if a packet is heading towards this network, this range, it's going to go to this gateway. A good way to think of gateway is just a router. Let's skip the flags for this lesson. Just know that U means it's up, so the possibility of it getting through is good because that network is up. The metric is a value for how good of a connection that is going through that particular interface towards that particular gateway. Let's skip these and go just to iFace as an interface. ETH0. I like the answer down here where the guy says that he has an Ethernet connection. So with the Ethernet card, that might be what ETH0 is, or ETHO. And then he has a wireless card, so that's a whole nother concept of a port, an exit point for that data, those packets. Looking at just this interface table or column of the table, we have etho and int1, interface 1 maybe. So I think we've answered the first question. Second question, Genmask is just another name for what? And that's simple, subnet mask. Students who take my class know I constantly complain about the synonyms used in computer science. Next up, what are 3 examples of onboard connections? So an onboard connection is simply the name of an interface, and then we learn that these are different types of interfaces that could exist. So we're really like in the physical world here. So just based on the answers here, the Ethernet, wireless, and Bluetooth. I suppose a computer can have fiber optics, so that would be another interface. Just a real simple question there. Now the next one, I'm going to use a picture to help me answer. It says, what is a gateway, and then why the star? So first of all, a gateway is a router. You may have heard me say that before. If we look at a picture like this, and there's a real good short video from Udacity, if we look at a picture like this, it kind of says it all. So here's a computer. They are connected to a default gateway that is like a router on the network. So if Bob is sending a message to someone other than Alice, because right, Alice is right next to him, he could send it to this switch, and then the switch would send it to Alice. Well, if he sends something to any other IP, it'll get forwarded over here. And from there, it'll either go out to the internet or go through another interface on this particular router headed to whoever needs it. So just remember, a default gateway is just a router, and when we're looking at an IP table like the one we're looking at, Notice that default is right here at the end, and what's that particular IP address for this particular IP table? So simply I wrote a gateway is a router that should know where to send the packet. But to flesh out more details, I say that this can also be considered a next hop because the gateway may not be the endpoint that the particular packet is looking for. And you can see that by seeing the different gateway IP addresses here. Well, if we take just these two, we see that they're going out of two different interfaces. So that makes a lot of sense. Of course, there might be a different gateway it's headed to. But what about this one down here, where that's a different number than this, but they're both going out of the etho port? That's totally okay, because all this is saying is these gateways know where the range, the IP range is that particular packet is looking for. I really wish this was just in a different format. Not only would I like it to be the Cedar notation like this, but maybe even writing out the range that this stands for would be helpful. But networking's not the easiest field to get into, so maybe there's just a gatekeeper to entering the wonderful world of networking where you can get paid pretty good. So the last part of the question I need to answer is just what's a star? And sometimes it won't be just a star. This guy says you might see the word on link, or you might literally just see the IP address of the current device. That star, when I read it, I kind of read nowhere. Like if something is headed for this IP range, it needs to be sent to no gateway, no router, because there's an interface here that connects to the host that packet is looking for. So just go out this port and you'll get to the computer you're looking for. And I was thinking about the advice I just gave you where I say to read the star as like no gateway needed. Well, it might be even better to simply say the star means there's no next hop. No need to go to a whole nother router, like I am the only router you need to get there. That the IP range listed in this IP table is on that IP table's network. So there are two networks here with a star, and that just makes me think that an IP table like this might be something that exists on this router where if you go out of that interface, here's one network. If you go out this other interface, here's the other network. Notice that in the table. This is the etho 0 and this is the int 1. That's where the stars are, so that makes sense that they're separated in that way too. Well, there you go. I hope you can now explain an IP routing table like this.